direction that we may be going and some of the theoretical analysis of what the border adjustment tax, or however it's going to be rebranded, is called, is how it's discussed. This panel is really more into the nuts and bolts. What is the impact going to be on real world businesses? We have folks here who see this as a net benefit for their companies and their sectors and for America. We have some others who have some different views. Looking forward to hearing from all of you. Our moderator, Tim Keeler, also a board member. Thank you, Tim, for doing this. Tim is also going to be, in addition to moderating, is also our trade arbiter. So we have people up on the stage who are more tax policy experts in their respective fields. Tim has both a tax background with the U.S. Treasury, Senate Finance Committee, and also at USTR. So thanks for being there, and I think if we have any of those trade questions, we'll try to leave time again for questions at the end. Thanks, and take it away, Tim.
Well, thanks, Ken, and thanks for everybody staying for the second panel. I know that's always a hard thing to do in Washington, but I think it shows great interest, and I'm delighted to introduce our speakers here. As Ken mentioned, this is intended to be folks who are a bit more in the trenches as opposed to talking about it at the think tank level, let's put it that way. Going down the right here, we're pleased to have Janet Boyd, who is Director of Government Relations and Legislative Counsel to the Dow Chemical Company. Brian Reardon, who's a principal at Reardon Consulting LLC. He's also the president of the S Corporation Association and a senior advisor at Venn Strategies. He's representing exporting companies supportive of the proposal. Michelle Bernstein is vice president and tax counsel at the National Retail Federation. And then finally, Rick Woldenberg is CEO of Learning Resources, a 150-employee manufacturer of educational materials and educational toys based in Vernon Hills, Illinois, with offices in Gardena, California, Kingsland, England. Rick is also an alumnus of my law firm, Mayer Brown, out of our Chicago office, I think a few years earlier, but really delighted to have everybody here. We're going to go right down the line and your comments, and then we look forward to Q&A afterwards. So with that, let me turn it over to Jen.
Thank you, and thank you to WIDA for putting this on. I think this is an important issue, and the timing couldn't be more ideal, whichever side you're on this debate. And what I want to say at the outset is Dow is pro-trade. There's no question about it. I've been kept solely in line by my colleagues, Colleen and Lisa, who are here, and I thank them for all the advice that they have given me to make sure that we don't come across as being anti-trade, because that is not where Dow wants to be. But Dow does support the blueprint, and I wanted to give you a little bit of background as to the reason why we're supporting it, and then I obviously welcome your questions afterwards to elucidate even further. But Dow, just a little bit of facts about Dow, because that might help elucidate our positioning on this. And then Dow is a long-time and a long-term investor in the United States, with over 2/3 of our R&D spending here, and a majority of our assets actually are based here as well. Almost all of our IP is also owned in the United States, and we truly believe that this $4 billion investment that we have undertaken, particularly along the Gulf Coast of the United States, to take advantage of low-cost feedstock, indicates that we have a commitment to the United States, even though we are very global. And just to be frank, we have both exports and imports, but our exports are higher than our imports. And I just want to make clear to you where our fact situation is on that. But what sort of served the rationale for us getting involved into this debate at all, and I found, and I was very appreciative of the first panel, because that gave you sort of a background as to what the business community's been trying to do for the last few years, and that is trying to come up with a good tax reform system. We recognize particularly US-based global companies have been under a lot of pressure outside the United States, with other countries doing various things with their income tax systems. Now, Dow is pretty conservative, so we haven't been so much in the maelstrom of a lot of that debate. But we have felt a lot of pressure in the BEPS project that Kathy mentioned has been one thing that has created some concern for us. So we were very engaged when former Chairman Camp tried to put together his tax reform proposal. And in many respects, we were very supportive of that proposal. But there were a lot of things that were causing a great deal of consternation with a lot of different companies, maybe not as much Dow, but a lot of others. And the one place that Dow had the biggest concern, and you got sort of a flavor of it from the first panel, was how do we treat our earnings outside the United States? The current tax system taxes our earnings all over the world, not just in the United States. It's a worldwide system. The Camp proposal came up with some solutions to that, somewhat inartfully, but it was helpful. But the reason why we've been intrigued by the blueprint proposal is it comes to that solution for worldwide earnings in a different way, and in a way that seems to be more simpler and perhaps more practical than the Camp proposal. But just to fill out this story, Dow has also been very supportive of a tax rate of around 25% or lower, as well as what I was describing, a competitive international tax system. So, the blueprint came out. We, like most companies, didn't pay as much attention to it until after the election, but certainly after the election, it's warranted a lot of review. But unfortunately, as was described in that first panel, there isn't much there at all to work with. And that is where the problem is. I can make assumptions, and I do, granted, on what the proposal will look like. Rochelle and her group will look at the proposal and make her assumptions. All fair. There just really isn't enough information. But what we're doing in this, obviously we're going to look at it in the most favorable light, and what we're going to do is try to drive that in that direction. And we also, again, as I said at the very front end, we understand the trade implications, and we will not support something that goes against the worldwide trade understanding that we all have and we all need. My company relies on worldwide trade, and we're not going to be putting ourselves in a position that makes us appear that we're against that. But we do support a lot and feel like the blueprint can be drafted in a way to be WTO consistent. There are some challenges to that, and our goal is to work around those challenges. One. Two, we truly believe that you can come up with some transition rules that will help drive us from being in our current tax system to a tax system that is envisioned by the blueprint. So in short and in sum, we all need more information. We will continue to stay engaged to try to get the additional details put into this proposal that would be helpful to the U.S. economy and help U.S.-based companies manage in the world economy as well. And ultimately, just in short and in closing, our goal is to achieve a competitive tax system that levels the playing field and for greater U.S. competition in the global market. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Judy. What a difference an election makes. Can you imagine getting a room full like this 3 months ago on tax reform? Nobody would have showed up unless you offered free food or something. I see this as an extreme positive in the sense that people are taking tax reform seriously. It is a serious effort that the folks on the Hill are making, and I know the folks want to get it right, so I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it in this particular provision. As Tim indicated, I'm here representing a group of businesses that support the Brady Plan, including Dow and some others, and also somebody who has for a long time thought that border-adjusted taxes were a really good idea that we should take a strong look at. And to understand why, I work a lot with the pastor community. Look at the taxes that they confront every day or every year or during the lifetime of the business. So for instance, there's the estate tax, right? Companies like Rex. If you're a family business over a certain size, you're going to have to confront the estate tax. And what it means is that every generation that your company passes on, you have to buy back a portion of that as your company from the federal government. It's a huge burden. The alternative minimum tax. A lot of people don't really think of it as a business issue, but when we were confronted with a fiscal cliff in 2012, we ran some numbers with Ernst & Young, and for larger pass-throughs, the AMT is the tax cut. More owners of larger pass-throughs pay the AMT than the regular tax cut. So it's a big hit. There's the 3.8% surtax. That was used to pay for Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. If you're an S-Corp and you have a single passive shareholder, somebody who doesn't work at the business, then that 3.8% tax effectively applies to all of your S-Corp income. It's added on to the regular income tax. And then there's the regular income tax. Right now, everybody knows that C-Corps pay the highest rate in the world, right? How much is it? Come on, 35%, right? What's the top rate for pass-throughs? It's 45%. So that's why pass-throughs are particularly excited about the chance to do tax reform and partnering up with C-Corps to make sure that it's done well, right? And that's why I'm excited about the Brady plan. Now, as other folks have indicated, right now it's just an outline, and we're working to make sure we get the details right. But the outline right now is extremely positive. If you think about what they're offering. First, the 4 taxes I mentioned, 3 of them go away. The estate tax, the individual AMT, the surtax, boom, they're just gone. So companies like Rick don't have to deal with those anymore, right? Second, it offers all businesses expensing, right? Right now, expensing is limited to smaller companies. Under the Brady plan, all companies of all sizes would be able to expense their capital expenditure. Third, it reduces the top rate for pass-throughs from 45%, like I said, all the way down to 25%. And for C-Corps, it goes from 35% down to 20%. Those are internationally competitive rates, and we're hoping that we can improve on that, but bottom line is it's a really good start, right? If you couple those tax cuts with territorial, the Brady plan, which is in the Brady plan, it's extremely pro-growth. The Tax Foundation folks ran the numbers, and according to their calculations, if the Brady plan were enacted, in the long run, the economy would be 10% or 9 percentage points, almost 1/10 larger than it is today. Think about how many jobs you would create in an economy that's 1/10 larger than what we have today. It's a big plan, and that's why I'm particularly excited about it. So what about the border adjustments? In my mind, the BTAs are at the heart of the Brady plan for 2 reasons. One, as Dan indicated, they raise a lot of revenue because we run trade deficits, which means that they use that revenue to pay for the direct cuts, pay for the estate tax repeal, pay for all the good stuff that's in the plan. Second, as Gordon indicated, they provide the enforcement necessary to go to a territorial tax system. Without border adjustments, you have to do something like Camp Option C, related party loans, so Part F rules, all sorts of complicated stuff. If you have border adjustment, you don't need to do that. There's no reason for a company to move all their income and everything to Ireland if they're just going to have to send, when they ship the product back to the U.S., they're just going to have to pay the U.S. tax anyway. So the fact is, you need both. Oh, I'm sorry. So this combination sharply lowers rates, and territorial eliminates the incentive for companies to shift income, operations, and headquarters overseas. And that's an important thing in terms of the current trade environment we're in. And you need both. As you know, if you want to stop inversions, you need to move to territorial. If you want to stop base erosion, you need to have a competitive tax rate. Without the BTA, on the other hand, the Brady plan, the House sponsors, they need to completely recraft the plan. It would be smaller, the rate reductions wouldn't be as much, you wouldn't get as much bang for the tax reform buck that you're trying to do. And I guess the last point, and I'll make this a couple times, is that while the BTA is trade neutral, as Gordon and Dan indicated, the overall package encourages investment and job creation in the U.S. and helps address the populist concerns that are out there without resorting to tariffs and protectionism. That's an important point, and I want to emphasize it a little bit. So I started supporting border adjustments back in 2004 when I was at the White House, and the CARE campaign was pushing this idea of eliminating tax breaks that sent jobs overseas. There's the whole idea of eliminating deferral, going to a pure worldwide tax system. As bad as that policy was, I really felt like we on the other side were unarmed in terms of how do we compete with that, right? How do we go out and sell the idea that our tax plan, our approach is better for trade and better for the economy? And so I came up with this idea, well, border adjustments allow you to do that. And the way you sell it is, if you build factories and you employ people and you make stuff here, we're going to rebate your taxes when you export those products overseas. And if you want to invest overseas and build factories and employ people over there, we're going to impose a tax on the border when you bring products back in the United States. That's what everybody else that we compete with does, and it's about time that the U.S. started adopting that policy too. It's a powerful message, at least in my mind. It addresses trade concerns, but again, without resorting to tariffs. So what about consumers? Will consumers see a massive price hike under the border adjustments? I don't think so. First, markets work. Right? The dollar will adjust and consumers will be protected. Both Gordon and Dan were agreed on that point. Don't have to take my word for it. The Treasury Department just released a study last week. I'm not sure if it was coordinated with anybody. It came out of the Office of Tax Analysis, sort of came out of the blue. And this is what they said. The experience around the world, and again, the experience around the world, with all the other countries that have border adjusted taxes, has been that border adjustment does not have trade effects. Instead, we have seen that real exchange rates move. One implication is that while importers or retailers collect and remit the tax, they generally do not bear the economic incidence of the tax. So that's point one. Second point, every other country that we trade with, nearly every other country that we trade with, has border adjusted taxes. So if there's such a bad idea, why are they all making this bad choice? And then my third point is that if currencies don't adjust and consumers are not protected, and every other country has a border adjusted tax, then that means our producers right now are at a disadvantage, right? That means that with currencies adjusting, producers are fighting on an unlevel playing field. So there you have it. Paired with pro-growth provisions, the border adjustments will reduce the cost of capital and make the U.S. a better place to invest and create jobs. It will eliminate incentives for companies to shift jobs, income, and their headquarters overseas, and it does so without resorting to tariffs and protectionism. Appreciate the time to talk. And I really appreciate everybody being here because I think the Brady plan, in my mind, is one of the more optimistic efforts that we've had in a long time. It really has the potential to take our tax code and make it one of the best in the world.